Hey there, welcome to the channel. So, will it happen or will it not? There seems to be a push to ban Russian oil. I was listening to this guy, Alex Christopher. He's one of those Duran guys, and I kind of go there. I know they're very pro-Russian, whatever, but I go there to get a different perspective, and that's why I like to go there. And he was talking about a couple things. He was talking about how they're kind of tracking these ships that are actually taking oil from the U.S. Battleship Reserve. We call it the SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and the U.S. has huge oil reserves. And we started this. I don't know when we started it, like after World War II or something. But basically, the idea is the U.S. has this, massive reserves of oil that we can call on if we really need to. Well, apparently, we know that Biden has been releasing it. Apparently, 1 million barrels a day for 180 days. And it turns out these ships are going right into the EU. So, why would that be? Well, as pointed out by others smarter than me, we have France is calling on a ban of Russian oil in a few weeks. But there's something interesting here as well. Um, See, there's an election going on, and we just had the first round election happened. And what happened there is it's very close between Macron and Le Pen. And so Sunday, April 24th, which is this Sunday coming up this weekend, there will be an election. So this is what the speculation is. The speculation is that, you know, the runoff election happens this weekend. If Macron wins, then hey, we're all set, right? He's set for the next period of time, and so now they're free to push and ban Russian oil. Now, if they ban Russian oil imports into the EU, I mean that's what they're pushing for. They're pushing for banning these Russian imports into EU. What is going to happen? Well, let's look at what's happening with oil. If we look here, if we look at like the Brent crude, we can see that we got some patterns going on here. First of all, this thing is, as it stands right now, I mean, you still have an uptrend going here. You got uh, a lot going on here, but it's hanging out around 105 on Brent. In West Texas Intermediate, it's kind of similar like that. And one of the things that you can kind of do here is you can kind of try to get an idea of what's going on. One of the things, it sort of looks like this. It really looks, when I look at this, it looks like a consolidation pattern. So the type of consolidation pattern that we're looking at here, and I'm not overly detailed on the patterns. I just kind of take them as they come. But what you see here is you put in this huge high and you really ramped up there really quick. So very unsustainable. Came off hard, put in a low. Then we put another high, but the high is not as high as the previous high. And then we put another low. But then notice that this low is a little higher than that one. And then we go to try to put in another high, but it's actually lower than the previous high. So this is like a symmetrical triangle type of pattern. In other words, this thing is moving from wider range to smaller range in kind of a symmetrical pattern. And what's really happening is this is a consolidation type of pattern. And typically it is like neutral. It's a consolidation pattern. So, you can read many descriptions about it, in terms of what it is for a pattern. But one of the things that you would consider is that if you were an uptrend before and you have this consolidation, the expectation is that, it's going to break out to the upside and continue the uptrend. Hence, this pattern was, just a period of consolidation in an overall bull trend going up. Now, sometimes these can be reversal patterns. Sometimes you could have a pattern like this, and then if it breaks to the downside, it could do that happens. But typically my understanding is it's less likely to do that. This is more of a consolidation pattern. And because what's really happening is, look, you're not getting anywhere. You're just in the zone. You're not getting anywhere. But what's happening is that this is a big setup, because when you look at this, these consolidation patterns, as they get down into this point where they get down to this narrow range, they're basically forced they're basically forced to make a decision. This thing just naturally, it has to get to a point where it's like, okay, something's going to happen. Now we have very little range, and it's like, okay, we're going to go up, down. What are we going to do? So in this case, it usually goes one way or the other. But what you can tell is it's building to that point, because now the range is getting much less. You started out with this wide ranging days, and it's coiling up. It's coiling up the spring. So one of the things, that could happen is it could be a sign for a breakup. So now put that together with the news. What is going to happen to the price of oil if EU bans Russian oil imports? Well, it's going to go through the roof, right? You're going to take, and they're going to try to throw they're going to try to just, okay, we're not going to buy the oil. It's like, fine, China will buy it, whatever. But whatever it is, those people in European countries are going to be scrambling to get oil from somewhere else, and they're going to be willing to pay much larger sums for that, higher prices for that. So we'll see what happens. We have the election this weekend with Macron. We have, this push by France to ban Russian oil. And there's also talk of like, hey, do this first, ban the Russian oil first is the idea, and then focus on the gas later, because Germany's pushing back on the gas, because it's going to be very devastating to their economy to push back on that. So that's sort of the issue that we have. So that's kind of a tactical setup here. Now, I was looking at the USO, and so USO is the ETF traded. This one looks a little different. I mean, it's not a little different. It is and it isn't. Is this one, I kind of, because you had such a doji day here, such a doji day, kind of cut it off and be like, yeah, then it looks more of like an ascending triangle. So the idea here is, if this was really an ascending triangle, it's more of a little bit of a bullish kind of pattern than a neutral. The reason being, you put in a high, your lows are working their way up. The lows are getting higher, which is, but your highs are staying near where they were. Either way, they're both consolidation patterns. And then if we just take, and I just look at this and I say, okay, fine, draw it there. I mean, it's either way, it's sort of the same kind of thing. So we'll see what happens with that. The other thing I was looking at was UNG, and this guy, man, just gone through the roof. It's interesting here. You had this little head and shoulders kind of pattern on the daily, not really a big deal, kind of broke below the neckline here and then broke away. It's kind of interesting to kind of keep in mind from a measured move kind of perspective here. This is kind of your neckline here at 17, and it made it all the way to a peak of 22. So that is a total of 5. You moved 5 up, and therefore the measured move down would be 5 down. Did we go 5 down? Okay, so 17 minus 5 is going to be 12 right there. See? So we got to 12. So it's kind of interesting. So this is one of those things you can do with these kind of like simple measured moves, just look at these patterns. I mean, if you were in on this, this is kind of an area where, pretty nervous, because there's a lot of consolidation, a lot of blah, blah, blah. And then it just kind of finally broke apart, went down to here. But the idea would be, if you were trading this, is that, okay, if you were like shorting it, or you were betting in a way that you make money on the way down with a put or whatever, when you get into this zone, hey, you hit your target, get out of there and go. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens in natural gas. If natural gas can kind of like pull back to some reasonable level and can start doing something. But yeah, right now that's just, it's way too hot, and the dollar's still moving up. And let's look at gold. Gold on the big picture here is, it's still kind of broken out. And so the same kind of pattern, that similar type of pattern that we were talking about before. Now, this, though, you got to understand, this massive pattern. This is like a year and a half of data on a weekly chart creating this pattern. But this is an example of what kind of has to happen. At some point, this thing is swirling up and down, going down, and it's just compressing. And at some point, it's got to make a decision. And in this case, there was kind of a little bit, not really much of an uptrend before, but it just kind of broke up. And then, it kind of went up. It peaked really there, and it's actually broken out again, but now it's on the way down. So it's actually broken out. It's actually, looking at that, it looks like it's moving. It's just volatile. So it's very volatile. So you have these big bars. And then looking at the tactical, this is also kind of a crappy, this is like, look, it was so out of range here, broke through here, but this is an example of a failed. So here you have this W, boop, boop, boop. you have, okay, can it break above there? It breaks above there for like a day or two, sort of. This day being a really crappy day here, this one, because what this means is like the morning it gaps up here and then it just spends all day going down and closes down here, doesn't get ahead. And that gives you a big solid candle, And what you really want is you want something where it opens here and then it spends all day working its way up. And then what you have there is you have a big open candle like that. And that would be much more better. But on the other side of this, sometimes these break and they fail. But there's still kind of potential for an uptrend here going on, because you look at the weekly, you look at all that, it's kind of like there's pressing to go up. Let's take a minute and look at our wheat, and hopefully wheat is backing off a little here. You can see that it seems to be maybe it's kind of hit this zone of resistance around 1125, and if it's coming off, that might be good, because we don't need higher energy food prices. We can only handle so many revolutions in the world at any one time. All right, so I'm going to summarize. We still have kind of support in for the energy. We have, our oil is in consolidation periods. For the last month and a half, oil's been in consolidation. If there's more things like more kind of banning in oil and stuff, you could see that there could be a setup for this thing to just pop out. If people are trying to short this thing as part of this consolidation pattern, and some people are short, and so they're like, it's overvalued, whatever. Some people short, some people long. All these people are kind of getting whipsawed around in these kind of consolidations. And so if this comes to pass, if they do ban that, and if they're able to get like all of the EU to agree to it, that could be a big deal. All right, that's it for this one. Bye.